Hello, I'm Edward October. Over the years, I've narrated more ghost stories, horror shows, and creepypastas than I can count. And yet, the crimes discussed on our true crime podcast managed to scare the shit out of me. This program is not suitable for children or the faint of heart. If you are such a person, go ahead and switch off this podcast. Listen to something else. Are you still with us? Well, we've warned you.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. Happy October-ish.
It's almost over.
It will be over by the time this goes.
Yep. It'll be All Hallows Eve, right? That's the day after Halloween?
No, All Hallows Eve is the day. It's I think All Saints Day is the day after Halloween. I think
That's
Hallows
what it is.
Eve. Yeah, something like that.
I get them confused. I don't know.
Anyway.
I just know Halloween.
Got a case for us?
I do, but before we go into it, I want to remind all of our listeners that it is that time of year again where political ads can show up on this podcast. And we do not want political ads to be played during this podcast. But for some reason, sometimes people get sneaky and they sneak them in. I'm not saying that our host sneaks them in. I'm saying the people that put the ads in sometimes figure out a way to mess with the algorithms or whatever, and they get snuck in. And not just political ads, anything that is political based ads, anything, just know.
Not
if
us.
It's going to be anything that's divisive, we didn't put it in. But we want you to know that you can let us know by either Twitter, Instagram. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. and we will get it taken care of. But if you find any ads that are on here that are political of any side, anything that is very
controversial,
political, divisive, we didn't approve that. So.
And also, let me add that just because you hear a commercial from where you are doesn't mean we hear it or other people. There was a complaint that some time ago, and when you play our podcast in the state of Missouri, or in St. Louis rather, it did not have the commercial that the person complained about. So where that went, I'm not sure. They don't tell us.
Right. Ads are regional. It's based on your region. So
we apologize.
So that's why we need to know if it is something that came up that, like I said, one of those categories, let us know and we will take care of it and complain to the higher ups. But anyway, there you go. We try very hard to be balanced, I guess, right?
We just said that
the politics and all that kind of stuff doesn't belong here.
True crime podcast hosts. We don't want to discuss
anything
religion,
else.
Politics, anything, nothing like that. True crime all the time is what we want to talk about.
Books, true crimes, movies, that's it.
And TV shows.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
Got that out of the way. Let's go.
All right. In August of 2002, Michael Short, his wife Mary, and their daughter Jennifer lived in a red brick ranch-style home right off of Highway 220 in Oak Level, Virginia. Michael owned a business named MS Mobile Home Movers, and he employed various people, most of whom were temporary or transient. The company wasn't doing so well, so Michael decided to put their house up for sale and move into a mobile home until he could figure out the next move. He had even made a trip up the coast of North Carolina to see if he could find work there. On the evening of Wednesday, August 14th, 2002, the family's plans were still up in the air. They may or may not sell the business, and they may or may not move to North Carolina. And on that night, they had every reason to believe that whatever came their way, they'd do it together as a family. And that, in a way, kind of turned out to be true. Oak Level, Virginia is in the Piedmont area of Rolling Hill Country. The region is sandwiched between the Blue Ridge foothills and the Tidewater. While outsiders might call the area south of the James River Southern Virginia, to the locals, it's just called the South Side. And in the South Side, the teeny town of Oak Level's population is about 1,000 people. If you travel the 220 south, right on the road that the Shorts lived on, into North Carolina, the experience would be one of that driving along a four-way highway, and it has the green, grassy median separating the two northbound lanes from the two southbound lanes, and the tree-lined corridor is dotted with an occasional house, business, or small town, but mostly it's just green as far as the eye can see. But it's an important thoroughfare connecting Virginia to North Carolina, and it's traversed by truckers and travelers at all hours of the day. Michael Wayne Short, born in 1952, was one of 4 children and a native of Virginia. He married early on in his life and had 3 sons. Unfortunately, that marriage dissolved. Michael Short would later meet Mary Frances Hall, and the couple married in 1992. This was the first marriage for Mary, who is also a native of Virginia. Mary was born in 1966 and was one of 7 children. Michael and Mary would settle down and have their only child together, Jennifer Renee, in 1993. Jennifer Short, a 4th grader in Figsborough Elementary School, was active in sports and was very well liked. She was a good student, and her teacher described her as, quote, the sweetest thing. Her parents were considered quiet but friendly. They were just small-town working-class people who minded their own business. One of Michael's employees, Chris Thompson, lived in a motel just a few miles down the road, and he spent the evening of August 14, 2002, working on a truck at the Short family home. The long summer day got away from the family, so Mary drove into town to pick up some dinner at a local fast food restaurant. The family finally ate around 11 p.m., and Jennifer went to bed afterwards. And Chris Thompson would later say that he left around midnight. Everything was fine, he would tell authorities later. Quote, they were all alive and well when I left. Before Chris returned to the motel, he and Michael made plans for the next day. Chris said he'd be back around 9 a.m., and he and Michael would go to Christiansburg, which is about an hour and a half northwest of Oak Level, to pick up a truck for the business. Well, when Chris arrived the following day, he found the garage door open, which wasn't unusual. Michael spent most of his time in the garage. And not only did he run his business out of the garage, but he also had a couch and TV where he sometimes slept. Michael worked odd hours, and apparently he snored very loudly. So sometimes he would sleep out there not to disturb his wife, which, quite the gentleman.
No.
I wish my husband would sometimes sleep on the couch. Anyway, neither here nor there. Not thinking anything was amiss, Chris stepped into the garage and saw Michael laying on the couch still sleeping. He said good morning to him, but Michael didn't move. Chris stepped over to the couch to shake Michael awake and realized his boss had been shot in the head, and he immediately called the police. The Henry County Sheriff's Office arrived at the little red brick home and confirmed that Michael had been shot in the head, quote, execution style. They immediately began a search of the rest of the property, hoping to find survivors. Toward the back of the house, just off the kitchen, police found Mary in her bedroom, laying in bed. She had also been shot in the back of the head with a small caliber gun, the same as Michael. Now they braced themselves as they headed to the daughter's bedroom, but they discovered that Jennifer was not there when they got to her bedroom. Her bed had been slightly moved, and the blankets had been pulled back, but Jennifer was nowhere to be found. Even though in 2002, the Amber Alert system had yet to be adopted statewide by Virginia, Roanoke issued one for the tiny town of Oak Level for Jennifer Short. Later, the Amber Alert would be extended beyond the state of Virginia, brought in many leads, mainly from psychics, but none of the leads brought anything to the table. They didn't lead anywhere. While search and rescue and volunteers searched the property and surrounding areas for the Short's daughter, the police made it their business to work the crime scene. The hope was that maybe Jennifer had heard the gunshots and fled into the woods, and was probably too afraid to come out, or somehow had gotten turned around and was now lost, because the alternative basically is too depressing to even think about. Authorities brought in canine units and helicopters, and people displayed yellow ribbons and hung her missing posters everywhere they could. Businesses put up signs imploring the community to, quote, please search your property for Jennifer Short. The local news kept everyone updated on the investigation, and eventually it hit the national news. But still, Jennifer remained missing. The initial investigation revealed .22 caliber casings next to Michael's and Mary's bodies. Police removed other items from the home, like a 12-gauge shotgun and shells, some of Jennifer's notebooks, and cassette tapes from the family's answering machine. DNA was also retrieved, although it's never been revealed if it matched anybody in any of the databases. On the counter in the kitchen lay $600 in cash, and police assumed that robbery was not the motive. There was also no struggle. No signs of struggle anywhere. In the garage, there was an imprint of a partial message that said, "I'm glad to see," but nobody knows if it had anything to do with the murders or not.
I'm glad to see? Like, I'm glad to see.
Like, I'm glad to see you, but maybe they didn't have time to write you. It was just, I'm glad to see.
Okay.
But also, they discovered that the outside phone lines had been cut, leading investigators to believe that the attack was premeditated. Police recorded Michael's and Mary's funerals to see if anybody had displayed any unusual or suspicious behavior, but found nothing. The couple were buried side by side at Henry Memorial Park. Not surprisingly, Chris Thompson was interviewed many times, and he fully cooperated with the investigation. He was eventually cleared as a suspect. On September 4th, 2004, Michael Short's body was exhumed to gather more evidence. The authorities were rather vague about why they needed the exhumation, and the investigators claimed it was just to collect things like hair from the body. Hairs from the body, I should say. Or, any kind of clues. It's really kind of weird because bodies are thoroughly washed during the autopsy and embalming process with a disinfectant. And so this led some people to believe that maybe the police what they were actually doing was retrieving DNA to see if Michael was indeed Jennifer's father.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not think that. Okay.
I know. That was kind of shocking to me, too. However, it's not understood why they couldn't have just compared Jennifer's DNA to her half-brother's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So DNA, to her half-brother's DNA. It was assumed that since Jennifer was taken from the scene rather than killed immediately, that police thought it was possible that Michael wasn't actually the father and Jennifer's real father, the birth father, had kidnapped her. And the police later stated that she was indeed Michael's biological daughter, but they've never revealed whatever evidence was retrieved from Michael's body during that exhumation. Since the family kept to themselves and didn't have any real disagreements with anybody they could find, the police had to go back to before Mary and Michael were married to find anything suspicious. Back in the early 90s, Mary had worked at Pluma textile plant, which has since closed. I believe it closed around 1999. And one day, a man came to the plant demanding to see her. This man had to be escorted off the property, and some sources say that he had also been seen sitting in his vehicle in the parking lot on a few different occasions. Mary asked her bosses to just let it go, don't call the police, and they agreed to do so. Most people assume that he was an ex-boyfriend, but it's unknown if this incident had anything to do with the murders. It would have been strange for the family to live a perfectly peaceful life with an unknown enemy, and then suddenly a disgruntled lover from 10 years ago, right, pops up out of nowhere to kill them. It just didn't make any sense. But investigators were desperate to find answers, so they followed up to every lead, no matter how thin those leads were. On September 20th, Jennifer's maternal aunt, Ruby Young, went before a judge to seek guardianship of Jennifer. Since her parents were now dead, the family was trying to get the legalities worked out for when Jennifer was found. They wanted her return to be as problem and stress-free as possible for their niece. Before going to the judge, Ruby Young had talked it over with the rest of Jennifer's family, and they all agreed, so the judge granted Ruby guardianship. But unfortunately, guardianship would not be needed. On September 23rd, off Grogan Road in Stoneville, North Carolina, about 30 miles south of the Short family home, Eddie Albert, and no, not the Eddie Albert you're thinking of, was walking his two dogs, Blue Girl and Zeke, on his property when one of the dogs brought him what he thought was a dirty old wig.
Uh-oh.
And the man promptly threw it in the trash.
Oh.
But 2 days later, when he was out walking with his dogs again, they brought Mr. Albert a few more unusual items.
Ugh.
Now, the man thought one of those items was a turtle shell.
Turtle shell?
But looking closer, he realized that he was holding a small human skull.
Oh.
He immediately called police, who immediately searched the property. And under a bridge, they found more bone fragments, human teeth, and a small rib cage. So it looked like after 41 days of being missing, they might have found Jennifer. But it couldn't be official yet. You have to get everything sent off. So police sent the remains off to the Virginia Division of Forensic Science Lab in Roanoke, Virginia. And on October 4th, after doing the proper DNA testing, they positively identified the remains of those of 9-year-old Jennifer Renee Short. Investigators were also able to determine that she had been shot in the head with a small caliber bullet. However, due to the state of decomposition, they couldn't determine when Jennifer had died. Jennifer was buried next to her parents on October 12, 2012. The question on everybody's mind was how long her captor had held Jennifer. Was she kept alive for days or even a few weeks and then killed? Or was she murdered on the same day as her parents? Makes totally different case, right?
Mm-hmm. It would make her the object of the whole thing then.
Exactly.
She was kept. I mean, it could make her.
And we'll go into that too. Stoneville, North Carolina community is in Rockingham County and is a straight shot down US 220. It's only about 32 miles from Jennifer's home. The discovery of her remains spun investigators around. In their eyes, this changed the whole motive of the crime. Was Jennifer taken as some sort of revenge on the family? I mean, you can't really enact revenge on dead people, though, right? So if that were the motive for killing Jennifer, they most likely would have left her parents alive, right? So they could suffer.
Make them suffer. Yeah.
Right. So investigators were slowly coming to the idea that Jennifer was the intended target. With the immediacy to find Jennifer now gone, investigators funneled all their attention to finding the killer. Witnesses said that a man of about 40 years of age with a weathered complexion was seen sitting on a flatbed truck on US 220 near the Shorts family home on the morning of August 15th. And for some reason, the police didn't release the sketch of this man until years later. Since Michael and Mary had put their home up for sale, Realtor had organized an open house. And for those that don't know what an open house is, it's when a specific time is set aside for people to wander in and view the home without having to make an appointment with the realtor. But the visitors do have to sign a guest book. So police thought that the killer might have gotten the idea to snatch Jennifer while looking at the home, or they may have used the open house as an excuse to go in and get the floor plan of the home, which honestly is a great idea. But if someone intended to kidnap Jennifer, they probably wouldn't use their
real name,
right? Mm-hmm. They wouldn't use any correct identifying information for the guest book. Mm-hmm. But stranger things have happened. Some criminals are fairly dumb. So it was worth looking into at least. And if there had any viable leads for this, we have no idea. They've never shared it with the public. A few days after the murders, the police got a tip from a man in North Carolina that would consume them and the media for months, which is what dawned on me that this is probably why they didn't issue the sketch out, or they didn't reveal the sketch until later. A man named Gary Lemons told police that a man named Garrison Storm Bauman had complained to him about a Virginia man who had paid to move his trailer, but didn't. Bauman told Gary Lemons that the man had better return his money or get his trailer moved, or he, quote, might have to kill him. Lemons was Bauman's landlord, and he told the authorities that he had seen Bauman installing a false floor and drilling holes in his van. He also said that he had seen children's clothing on Bauman's property, even though Bauman had no small children living with him. Garrison Bauman was a 66-year-old carpenter who lived in Mayodan, North Carolina, just a mile and a half from where the remains of Jennifer Short were found. He had no criminal history except for 2 DOIs, one in North Carolina and one in Wyoming, and Bauman had no history of violence whatsoever. But the interesting thing, Lemons said, was that Bauman had fled to Canada the day after the Short family was murdered. And he had found a map of Virginia with the location of the Short family home highlighted in Bauman's trailer. Investigators rushed right to the trailer that Bauman lived in and looked around. The trailer was now located on the property of John Beasley, and he agreed to let the police search it. John Beasley was a friend of Bauman's and had offered to let Bauman store the trailer on his property until the new owner could claim it. He said he had known Bauman for 15 years, and he had always known him to be a gentle and pleasant sort of man. Moreover, he said that Bauman hadn't fled to Canada at all, and the trip had been planned well in advance. Still, Once Jennifer Short's remains turned up on a property about 1.5 miles from where Bauman had been living, the police wanted to go to Canada to interview him. The Canadian authorities were already detaining Bauman on an immigration violation. It seems that Bauman had failed to disclose his DUIs to the Canadian authorities, and he was arrested by the RCMP in the Arctic Circle in a tiny place called Inuvik, I hope I pronounced that correctly, in the Northwest Territory. So Bauman was flown south to Yellowknife in the Yukon, where investigators from Virginia had arrived to question him. Bauman was extradited from Canada to the U.S. in November of 2002, and it was asked that he remain in jail because he was considered a flight risk until he could testify before a grand jury hearing. The authorities would make 4 trips to Canada and question people who had spent time with him. One person questioned was a mechanic who had given Bauman a place to live for almost a month. This man said that he had seen the inside of Bauman's van and there had been no alterations. There was no false floor, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing had been made, other than Bauman had made himself a cot to sleep on while he traveled. Bauman testified before a grand jury in November 2002 and said he knew nothing about the Short family or their murders. No indictment would follow because there just wasn't enough evidence against Bauman. But unfortunately, the police and the media had plastered Bauman's photo all over the news, saying that he was wanted for questioning in the murders of the Short family.
Oh, that's not good.
Doing so led 3 people to lie about Bauman to collect the reward money.
Oh.
Jerry Riley Mills, age 42, of Guilford County, North Carolina, and Timothy Finnan Sampson, age 40, of Randolph County, North Carolina, told the authorities that they were in the Oak Level neighborhood on the night of the murders. It seems that they were scouting out places to rob when they heard gunshots, and then they saw a man fleeing with a young girl in his arms. A third man, Tony Lee Epperson, age 33, of Walnut Cove, North Carolina, apparently had the same idea as Mills and Sampson and called the police with similar accusations. One paper said that the man carrying the girl looked like Abraham Lincoln, which the man would later identify Bauman as the Abraham Lincoln lookalike. And they also said that the young girl wore a nightgown and that she appeared lifeless.
But they lied? They lied?
Mm-hmm. In May of 2005, all 3 men were arrested on charges of conspiracy, perjury, and giving false information to the police.
Do they not think about the poor family hearing that and it's just a lie?
Mm-hmm.
Why would somebody do that? That's evil.
Yeah, it is. It stops the investigation too, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Timothy Sampson was also charged with threatening to kill 2 police officers and coercing his daughter to lie to a grand jury on his behalf. Mills, Sampson, and Epperson's interference with this investigation wasted the police's time and the taxpayers' money. None of these men were bothered at all that if Bauman was indeed charged for these murders and found guilty, he would have spent the rest of his life in prison for a crime he wasn't a part of or didn't even commit. And likewise, they weren't concerned that their lies meant that so many resources were focused on the wrong individual that the actual killer was getting away scot-free. All men were found guilty and served brief prison sentences. Just assholes. Sorry.
I just don't understand.
I don't either.
Do they not process from, if I do this, then I guess they don't
just
care.
wanted the money. They just wanted the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. Just the low lives. That's all I'm just going to say. It takes anyway. In October of 2003, Jennifer Short's remains were exhumed for forensic purposes. Now, if anything came from that exhumation, it was never made public. Finally, in 2007, the police announced that Garrison Bauman was no longer considered a person of interest in the case. Bauman denied involvement in the murder of the family until his death in December of 2014. While the sheriff stopped short of accusing Bauman's former landlord, Gary Lemons, of lying to the police, he said, quote, "It's possible that Lemons may have misinterpreted what he saw. The only reason the police suspected Garrison Bauman in the first place was because of the tip given by Lemons. The map with the highlighted area marking the home of the Short family wasn't discovered in Bauman's trailer by the police. Lemons found it. In late October of 2002, it came to light that Gary Lemons was angry with Bauman for deeding his trailer to a friend and moving it off Lemons' property when he went to Canada. Some think Lemons falsely accused Bauman out of revenge. Police checked Bauman's phone records, and there was no call to Oak Level, Virginia, or to the Short family. If Bauman had ever talked to Michael Short about moving the trailer, it wasn't from his home phone. Interestingly, though, Lemons had fingered Bauman to the police before Jennifer Short's remains were found just a mile and a half from Bauman's residence. In fact, according to one newspaper article from 2008, the police hadn't been at all interested in Bauman at first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he had his name and wasn't really interested in it. And it wasn't until that Jennifer's remains showed up less than 2 miles from his house in North Carolina that they suddenly were very interested in talking to Bauman. Gary Lemons stuck by a statement and took a polygraph where he was asked if he was lying about the information he'd given to the police, and Lemons passed the polygraph. Police officers in Henry County, Virginia, kept a photograph of Jennifer Short on their desks for years as a reminder to solve the case. In 2006, indictments were made against several officers of the Henry County Sheriff's Office for corruption, drug trafficking, and racketeering, leading to headlines such as, quote, Henry County Sheriff's Office corrupt to the core. The sheriff, who had worked on Jennifer Short's case since the beginning, pled guilty to the charges along with 16 other officers. This led many to question whether the investigation to the murders of the Short family had been handled properly at all. Some even questioned if the cases could have been connected, although law enforcement totally denies that accusation. A task force made up of members from the Virginia State Police, ATF, FBI, and Henry County Sheriff's Department was created and met regularly to discuss the case. In 2009, they made a public appeal for people who had worked with Michael Short to please come forward. Many of Michael's employees worked for cash and were hard to track down. And to this day, the police still aren't sure if they've heard from all of them. Unfortunately, the case of the Short family murders have never been solved. And although information has dwindled, police insist that it's not gone cold. In 2015, police made a public plea to friends and schoolmates of Jennifer's, asking for them to come forward to see if they could remember anybody who gave any unwanted attention to Jennifer, or if they saw anybody that may have hung around the schoolyard. They wanted to know if there was any teachers or coaches that maybe made students feel uncomfortable too. In essence, the police believe that whoever killed the family knew the family. But we can't ignore the proximity of the family's home to Highway 220. Any number of people who drove that road weekly or daily could have seen Jennifer outside in the yard, right, playing. I mean, if they traveled that road often to maybe go to work or to the doctor's or to go shopping, the individual could have eventually noticed Jennifer had lived alone with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just think of maybe kidnapper, pedophile traversing the road, could realize that Jennifer would be an easy target. And while it makes sense that somebody close to the family could have committed this crime, considering where their house was located, it's just as believable that a total stranger watched and waited for the right time. Even though those kind of things are rare, they still happen. But questions remain. Why did Jennifer and Mary not hear a gunshot that killed Michael? There wasn't a struggle anywhere in the home except for Jennifer's bed had been slightly moved. I mean, that kind of indicates that Mary and Jennifer didn't hear the shots, right?
Guess.
You would have woken up?
Yes, unless, I don't know.
Well, it was in the garage. I mean, Michael and maybe, I don't know.
Could have dropped a tool, or they thought he dropped a tool and it didn't occur to them that...
Gun silencers? I don't know. I have no idea. It's just... The police interviewed over 4,000 people regarding this case. Investigators have made bold moves, like exhuming Michael's and Jennifer's body and even traveling to North Carolina, where Michael had scoped out jobs. I mean, this was all to see if there's any leads to be found. And still, there's never been an arrest. Most of the information regarding forensic and clues have never been released to the public, as it's still an ongoing investigation. In 2003, the small wooden bridge where Jennifer Short's remains were found was renamed the Jennifer Renee Short Memorial Bridge. Every year, there's an annual Jennifer Short Educational Scholarship Benefit Ride where motorcycle riders cross the bridge in her memory. This year, 2023, was the 21st annual, and there were over 100 riders that joined. The proceeds of this ride helped provide college scholarships to students in need in Henry County. Shortly after the murders, the red brick home the Short family lived along Highway 220 was auctioned off, but no other family moved in there. Actually, no one moved in. And in a strange postscript to the story, the Short family home, the place where they lived and died, burned to the ground in 2019, taking with it all its secrets. And the cause of the fire remains unknown.
Oh. Any chance the perpetrator did it?
Could be. Your guess is as good as anybody's. One of Jennifer's uncles had commented that he just didn't understand how somebody could walk into a house, kill 2 people, kidnap one, and leave no traceable piece of evidence behind. It's upsetting to contemplate and alarming to imagine the sheer terror that Jennifer must have endured. Currently, there is an $80,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the killer or killers in this case. So, we're putting out a plea that if you have any information, no matter how small, no matter if you don't even think it could be of any help, just anything that you might have seen or heard regarding the murder of Jennifer, Mary, and Michael Short on the night of August 14th through the morning of August 15th, 2002, please call the following organizations. So are you ready? Grab a piece of paper and a pen. Henry County Sheriff's Department, 276-638-8751, and the Henry County Crime Stoppers, 276-632-7463. And there's 2 other, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department and the Rockingham County Crime Stoppers. I will list those phone numbers in the show notes. So if you have any information, call them, tell them I sent you, and let's help solve the case of the Short family. It's gone on way too long, over 20 years. Let's get it done, people.
Do what you do, internet people.
I don't know. Very sad. I hate that this case is...
Well, it's solvable.
It is solvable.
I mean, they all are, but sometimes somebody out there knows something, I bet,
Who's the 40-year-old-ish man with the weathered face and the white truck that was out in front of the house? I'll put a link in the show notes for that so you can see the composite sketch.
Does he look like Abraham Lincoln?
No. Bauman did. He had that beard that Abraham, like the no mustache. Yeah. But no, he looks like any Joe Public kind of, what I mean? I mean, there's no identifying things.
So
he had a ball cap and I mean, it could be anybody. But yeah, very sad case. But interesting on this, on October 24th, just a couple weeks ago, last week, we got an email from somebody, a woman named Judy Bryant. Very nice woman. She said she listens to the podcast. She likes the podcast. And she had a recommendation. She wanted to request a case. And she requested this case, which was so funny.
Because it was already in the movement.
Because I was just doing the finishing touches to this case when I got the email. So
is she from that area?
Yes, she is from the area.
Did she have any theories or anything?
She didn't go into it, no. But she's like, it's a shame and it needs to be solved. And it's, and it does. So, yeah. But I just thought that was a weird coincidence. I haven't had that happen before.
Meant to happen.
Yeah. Because I had literally closed down the app, you know what I mean? Or the application, whatever it is. Closed down the script. I can't even think this morning. And I was like, funny you said that. This is what I'm working on right now. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. Thanks for listening. And then, hopefully maybe somebody out there knows something,
You just have to wonder if those 3 jerks, I have a stronger name for them, but I'm not going to use them here, hadn't totally thrown them off the investigation with Bauman, how it might have been solved. And then, of course, there is that the sheriff's department was, a little skeevy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, too, I think with a case like this, it's high profile. I'm thinking that the officers, the detectives are like, well, this will be easy. We're going to solve this in probably the next 24 to 48 hours, right?
Yeah, but if they're corrupt.
But I'm saying, so then they didn't.
Trafficking drugs and. whatnot.
They were busy doing other things is what they were doing instead
Right.
of working this case.
I know. It's just frustrating. It all
Oof.
could have been.
Oof.
It all could have been easily solved, you would think.
Mm-hmm.
But like the DNA,
So they really do
If
believe
they
Jennifer
took-
was the target?
it seems to believe that now they think she is because that they took her to the second location and then probably killed her there. Just how? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sad,
It's awful.
horrible.
Hopefully, maybe it's a sign that the listener reached out to you and that maybe
Hope, fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. I was just going to
Mhm.
say that.
I know. Look at you.
Jinxie.
Look at
Jinxie.
you. Quick, have you been watching The House of Usher?
I have not. I have not started that yet.
Oh, it is so good.
I've been watching other things, but it's
Yeah.
good, huh?
It's, I
Okay.
went into it blind, just thinking it was going to be a retelling of The House of Usher.
Uh-huh.
And it's
it's
so
not.
much more than that. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's, if you know Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, and
Mhm.
his works, it's fascinating how everything is intertwined through the whole thing.
I will
I'm
watch
only like
that.
2 or 3 episodes in, but it's really well done. It's well written, well acted, everything. I love it.
I have a recommendation for people out there.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not really a sci-fi kind of person. And so I started watching this because it dealt with what? That's right, murder. But there's a show, it is on, I think it's Hulu, called Bodies. And
I saw that.
did you watch
I
it?
haven't watched it.
It is interesting. So if you like science fiction, watch it. Same murder happens in 4 different time periods with 4 different detectives who have to solve it. But it's got a science fiction. It's heavy science fiction. Really.
Well, is it time travel or is it just...
I don't want to say because you really have to pay attention. And like it would serve me if I watched it again, but I'm not going to. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
a lot to it and it bounces back and forth, but it's kind of interesting. And then also for you people out there that love the scary stuff like I do, Creep Show has a new season on Shudder. So I started watching that this morning. It's good. I love Creep Show. It's just
Creep
amazing.
Show is good. It is good. And then have you started Britney Spears' book yet?
I did. I bought the audio
Yep, I have the
version.
audio too. I love Michelle Williams, so
And
I
I
wanted
just-
to hear her. She does it so well.
I just laugh because it's, I don't know. Poor Britney. That's all I gotta
Oh.
say. You know?
I'm mad at everybody but Britney. Everybody's just horrible to her.
Well,
Just absolutely horrible.
and I think if she would have had better handlers, better management, better family,
parents.
she would be huge. And I mean, she was huge. Maybe
Is. I mean,
she is huge.
she's got that that name recognition. I mean,
She
she's going
does.
to be an A+ star
Forever.
all of her life.
But it's also, I don't want her to become a caricature of herself. And I fear
Everybody did
that's
her wrong.
coming,
That's all I'm
you know?
saying. And it makes, and I've never been a big Britney fan. I've not ever been a JT fan really. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's that poor woman is
Mhm.
all I'm saying. And her
Mhm.
sons are affected by all of this too.
Oh, yeah. In my
Because
head,
of what
she's
she
still a
went-
kid. 'Cause
She is.
I don't know.
Well, I think she is still a kid. Hasn't matured
Yeah.
at all. She's 41, and the stuff that she's doing online is
Like
what
a
you would
15-year-old.
think of exactly.
Mhm.
Like my 15-year-old knows
Mhm.
better than to do what she's doing
Some of the stuff.
online,
Mm-hmm.
which is embarrassing her children, and
That's what I'm saying. I think
it's a
you know,
tragedy.
we had a talk at work, and we're like, the smartest thing for her to do would be to just disappear for like 10 years. Just go out of the light, just go out, and then come back and like do something with Taylor Swift. That would be
Mhm.
amazing, like a tour or whatever. And just
We love a comeback.
We do.
We love
everybody does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I think, I don't know.
But my heart breaks for her. I mean, she went through.
She did.
She was the cash
and that's
cow.
what we know.
and-
Could you imagine what happened that we don't know about?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You
It
know.
made me. I need to go back because I actually was listening to it before I was to kind of make me sleepy.
Mhm.
Like instead of reading, I would just put on the audio.
Mhm.
And next thing I did, I woke up and they're like, and then Justin, and I'm like, oh, I got to stop it so I can go back and
See what happens.
and see what happens. Yeah. So I plan to do that tomorrow while I clean the house.
Oh,
And
nice.
fold laundry and become Cinderella for the day. Cinderella. Yeah.
No. I hear we have a promo today.
We do. We have the sweetest 2 ladies ever, or one of sweetest ladies that we met at the True Crime Podcast Festival back in August. Amanda and Lauren, they're two sisters.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Lauren.
They're so sweet. I loved them. I heard. Anyway, their podcast is called Most Wanted, and they basically cover the folks that have made the FBI's Most Wanted lists. They're so sweet. You need to give them a chance. Subscribe, give them a chance, listen to them, subscribe to them. I think you'll like them. I mean, I liked them when we met them. Immediately liked them. You know what I mean? Just like great ladies.
Nice people.
Very nice people. But brand new, I guess they started just this year. I think there's 41 episodes for you guys to binge. For us, that's 2 days? But
Not
definitely
even.
give them a listen. Listen to the trailer and then, like I said, subscribe and listen to them. And I think you'll love them as much as we did. Amanda and Lauren, they're dolls. Yeah.
Do it. Just do it. It's just like Nike. Just do it.
You won't regret it.
You won't.
I promise.
All right, Jen.
All right. I think that's it.
I think that's it. So remember, lock your doors.
Keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya. For more information about this episode, as well as all other sources, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by the hosts, Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico Vertese from We Talk of Dreams. You can reach Nico at wetalkofdreams.com. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from OctoberPod VHS. You can find all of his great works on YouTube. Please make sure to like and subscribe to our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter with the handle at Our True Crime Pod. You can also email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. We would also at this time like to thank our patrons. We would be so lost without you. Thank you so much. And if you would like to help support the show, you can check us out on patreon.com/Our True Crime Podcast. You can also show your support by leaving a 5-star review on Apple or simply just tell your friends about us. It's that easy. Love ya.
Have you ever wondered how criminals got on a most wanted list or ended up on America's Most Wanted?
Our podcast is here to help you answer that question, one criminal at a time. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're the sisters behind Most Wanted, a podcast where each week we delve into one wanted criminal, discuss their crimes, and have a little fun along the way. And while we cover the criminal, we also like to take time in each episode to appreciate the seriousness of some of these crimes and to honor the victims.
So if you've ever wondered what the full story is behind people like Andrew Cunanan, Eric Rudolph, or Gary Christ and Ruth Eisman Shire, the two 20-somethings who buried Barbara Mackle alive, you've come to the right place.
Listen to Most Wanted wherever you get your podcasts.